Last Thursday, there's a memorial service for Ron Brown. Bill Clinton is leaving it, and he's laughing it up, telling big-time jokes with his Secret Service person, whoever is standing next to him, and spots a camera way over there, and just watch it in slow motion, and you'll see it. Well, here it is, once again, bright sunny day. Look at everybody smiling here. See the president, you'll see him in just a moment, laughing, telling a joke, spots the camera. Watch the face. Watch this. Now here comes a tear. We got a tear here, and the other guy's still laughing, if you know it. I mean, he doesn't even know what's going on.
In the annals of American history, few stories evoked as much intrigue and sorrow as that of Ronald Harmon Brown. Born on August 1st, 1941 in Washington, D.C., Ron Brown emerged as a pivotal figure in the Democratic Party, breaking barriers as the first African American to serve as the United States Secretary of Commerce under President Bill Clinton. As we delve into his remarkable life, we find a man of resilience and vision, dedicated to the principles of service and equality. But his story took a tragic turn on April 3rd, 1996, when he lost his life in a devastating plane crash in Croatia. This tragic event raises questions that linger to this day. Ron Brown was raised in Harlem, New York, in a middle-class family. His upbringing was marked by the values of community and philanthropy, as he was a member of Jack and Jill of America, an organization dedicated to nurturing leadership in African American youth. He attended prestigious schools, including Hunter College Elementary and Rhodes Preparatory School, where he faced the unique challenges of being one of the few black students. After graduating from Middlebury College and serving in the United States Army during the Vietnam War, Brown returned to civilian life with a determination to effect change. He joined the National Urban League, advocating for economic equality, and quickly climbed the ranks within the Democratic Party. His work culminated in his appointment as the chairman of the Democratic National Committee in 1989, where he played a crucial role in Bill Clinton's presidential campaign in 1992. On that fateful day, in April 1996, Ron Brown was on an official trade mission to promote economic opportunities in Croatia. The plane carrying Brown and 34 others, a U.S. Air Force CT-43, tragically crashed while attempting to land at Dubrovnik's Silipi Airport. The crash claimed all lives on board, except for one flight attendant who succumbed to her injuries later. The official investigation attributed the crash to pilot error and a poorly designed landing approach. But as is often the case with politically significant figures, the narrative felt incomplete. In the days following the crash, speculation and conspiracy theories began to circulate. Ron Brown was under investigation by independent counsel for allegations of corruption. His untimely death raised eyebrows and led many to question whether his death was merely a tragic accident or if it concealed a darker truth.
A published report said a second Armed Forces medical examiner says the corpse of Commerce Secretary Ron Brown seemed to have a bullet hole in the top of the head. The Pittsburgh Tribune-Review reported U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel David Haas says he saw an apparent bullet wound in the head, supporting the account of forensic pathologist examiner Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Steve Cogswell. According to the report, Haas and Cogswell, both members of the Armed Forces Institute of Pathology, participated in the agency's investigation of the April 1996 military jet crash in which Brown and 34 others died. An Air Force spokesman told United Press International that the wound to Brown's head superficially looked like a bullet wound, but, quote, scientific data, including x-rays, absolutely ruled it out, end quote. Cogswell, who never examined Brown's body but was the Air Force's man at the crash site, maintains that x-rays of Brown's head have disappeared from the Institute's file, including one that apparently shows bullet fragments. The Pittsburgh Tribune-Review has published some of the photos of the x-rays, and we will review some of them on this program. The Pittsburgh Tribune-Review has been accused of anti-Clinton bias because of its conservative leanings, but the NAACP and the Congressional Black Caucus have asked for explanations from the Justice Department, the Defense Department, and the White House. Ron Brown's own family, according to the New York Daily News, did not condemn the conservative participation and, quote, did nothing to dispel speculation that the Clinton administration may be covering up Brown's murder, end of quote. If Brown was murdered, did someone want him dead so badly they didn't mind killing 34 other people on the plane to silence him? I'm Tony Brown. In a moment, was Ron Brown shot?
When you were in Croatia, you received a phone call or communication about this hole. What was the communication?
Essentially that Brown had a .45-inch inwardly beveling circular hole in the top of his head.
You've been a forensic pathologist for some time. Does this appear to be, could this fit the description of a gunshot wound to the head by a .45 caliber pistol?
Notable figures, including Kwesi Mfume, then head of the NAACP, and Congresswoman Maxine Waters, expressed concern over the circumstances surrounding Brown's death. They sought more information, driven by fears of potential government cover-up. Adding to the intrigue, reports surfaced regarding a peculiar circular wound found on Brown's head when his remains were recovered. While forensic experts ultimately ruled it as a blunt force trauma, the mere existence of such an injury fueled speculation about foul play.
April 3rd, 1996, an Air Force jet carrying Secretary of Commerce Ron Brown and 34 others crashed while landing near Croatia's Dubrovnik airport. At the time of Ron Brown's death, he was under criminal investigation by an independent counsel. That investigation quickly ended with Brown's death, though Brown's son, Michael, and Brown's partner later pleaded guilty to charges related to Brown's alleged wrongdoing. Then in late 1997, stunning revelations were made in the Pittsburgh Tribune-Review. It was a series of investigative reports by reporter Christopher Ruddy. The Tribune-Review reported that 3 military pathologists believed there was significant evidence that Brown may have suffered a gunshot wound to his head, and that the cause of death as an accident could not be supported unless there was an autopsy. No autopsy was ever conducted on Brown. And when Brown's body was examined at Dover Air Force Base, officials found what appeared to be a perfectly round hole, consistent with a .45 caliber gunshot wound. And x-rays also indicated possible bullet fragments in Brown's head. These and other disclosures have become a focus of interest with Judicial Watch, a public interest law firm headed by Larry Klayman. And joining us today to discuss the cover-up of Ron Brown's death is Judicial Watch Chairman Larry Klayman and Newsmax.com editor Christopher Ruddy. Larry, let's start with you. You and your organization first uncovered the facts relating to the scandal that is known as Chinagate and Ron Brown at Commerce. How was Brown involved in all of these stories?
Brown was the mastermind, the implementer of the scheme to sell out seats on trade missions, to sell high technology to the Chinese and others. This was devised by Hillary Clinton. That business partner you talked about, Nolanda Hill, had testified to this. No one refuted it. The court dared the White House to come in with other evidence. It hasn't occurred. So consequently, When Ron Brown's plane goes down during the week that he had been scheduled to testify to Judicial Watch, but got a postponement to go to Bosnia instead, it obviously raises a lot of questions.
Larry, you've spoken with Brown's business partner, as you say, Nolanda Hill. Hill told you what had happened to Brown in the days just before his death. The independent counsel, Daniel Pearson, was closing in on Brown. Brown went to see Bill Clinton.
That's right. What happened was this. This independent counsel started before this plane crash occurred. This counsel was a Democrat out of Miami. Brown went to Clinton, according to Nolanda Hill, and said to Clinton, unless you get this Democrat independent counsel off my back, I may have to turn state's evidence. I may have to cooperate. And Clinton's response was barefoot, according to Nolanda Hill, up on a footstool, which is his way of walking around the White House. Arms crossed. That's nice. Almost like an organized crime figure. That's nice. The icy chill in the room was so great that Nolanda Hill has told us that Ron Brown just walked out at that point. And it was within the next 2 weeks that he was sent to Bosnia. He did not know that he was scheduled to go there.
Never heard it. As a reporter, I've never heard it before. This plane crash came at a very convenient time. As a former federal prosecutor, Larry, should this have been dismissed so easily as another accident?
It can't be dismissed as an accident. It can't be dismissed because it's irrefutable. As we represent Kathleen Janowski and Steve Cogswell, two people in the Armed Forces Institute of Pathology that actually played a role in investigating the death, it cannot be disputed that what you have in Ron Brown's head is a bullet hole.
Chris Rudding, you broke this story in that great newspaper, the Pittsburgh Tribune-Review. And your articles continue on Newsmax.com. I want you to explain to us now how Brown could have been shot considering the plane had crashed.
George, I think everything people have heard about this case is probably false or misleading, although certainly that the press and the government has told. We know that the Air Force report on the crash states categorically that the weather was not bad, that the weather did not contribute to the crash. You asked the average American, they thought that it was the worst weather ever in Croatia that day. Second, the Air Force, for the first time in their history of airplane investigations on friendly territory, decided they were immediately going to declare this an accident without a full investigation. And then the third thing, George, I think is the most disturbing. When the military officials at Dover Air Force Base examined Brown's body, they found what appeared to be a gunshot wound. Now, we don't know how that gunshot wound was made, but you do an autopsy, you do an investigation, and instead, what they did was a cover-up of the facts of this case.
Fred, Larry, it seems shocking to me that they found this evidence. Did anybody call the FBI? Did anyone contact the Brown family? Why wasn't there an autopsy? Why didn't they conduct one?
No, as a matter of fact, it was worse than that. And of course, we get this story about what happened with Clinton in the Oval Office from Nolanda Hill. And it's interesting enough that Nolanda Hill is the only one who winds up getting indicted and having to do hard time. Michael Brown gets off scot-free. Other people don't go to jail. Nolanda Hill, the person that comes forward and tells the story about Brown's encounter with the president, goes to jail. And let's underscore, George, this was a Commerce Secretary, a member of the President's cabinet.
Yes.
There was significant evidence of homicide. All of the pathologists agreed at Dover Air Force Base there was apparent gunshot wound that needed an autopsy. No autopsy was conducted. It is standard procedure that an autopsy be conducted.
As the investigation unfolded, many questioned the thoroughness of the Air Force's inquiry. Some critics argued that the investigation was conducted hastily to quell the rising tide of conspiracy theories. The fact that Ron Brown was a prominent political figure with ties to ongoing investigations only intensified suspicions. Reports indicated that Brown had recently traveled to Vietnam on behalf of the Clinton administration, carrying an offer to normalize relations between the United States and the former communist nation. This trip made him a person of interest in various political circles, leading to speculation over whether his death was somehow tied to these diplomatic efforts. Despite the tragic end to his life, Ron Brown's legacy lives on. He was posthumously awarded the Presidential Citizens Medal by President Bill Clinton, an honor accepted by his widow, Alma Brown. His contributions to society and the Democratic Party are commemorated through various awards and scholarships, including the Ron Brown Scholarship Program, which supports young African Americans in their pursuit of higher education. The Ronald H. Brown Center for Civil Rights and Economic Development continues to inspire future generations. Yet, as we remember Ron Brown, we must confront the lingering questions surrounding his death. Was it merely a tragic accident, or does it reflect the perilous intersections of politics, power, and possibility? The truth remains elusive, with many believing that the official narrative does not capture the full story. In politics, especially for those who challenge the status quo, the stakes can be dangerously high. The unanswered questions about Ron Brown's death serve as a stark reminder of the complexities within the political landscape. As we reflect on Ron Brown's life, we honor not just the man but also the ideals he represented. His journey reminds us that success is not a solitary endeavor. It is about uplifting others and creating pathways for future leaders. In the end, the mystery of Ron Brown's death challenges us to seek the truth, to question the narratives we are fed, and to remain vigilant in our pursuit of justice and equality. As we continue to explore the legacy of those who came before us, let us keep the door open and the ladder down for those who will follow.